spy lovers. I'm Jimmy Bond, and this is Spies Like Me. Today, I'm coming to you from a battle zone in Israel, where the forces of a man named Gideon are preparing an assault on the army of Midian.
Wet blanket. This is dry blanket. Come in. Wet blanket. Over.
Gideon is one of the judges, a special group of people who led the nation of Israel after they conquered the promised land.
Wet blanket. This is dry blanket. Come in. Wet blanket. Over.
Gideon has only 300 men, while the Midianites have brought thousands of trained soldiers for the fight.
Wet blanket. This is dry blanket. We've been compromised. Over.
And this very night, Gideon is planning a sneak attack on the forces of Midian.
Wet blanket. This is dry blanket. Abort the mission. I repeat, abort the mission!
And it's all thanks in part to this man right here.
Uh-oh.
Excuse me, are you the spy who went into the camp with Gideon to spy on the Midianites?
Me? A spy? What makes you think that?
Well, all this listening equipment here looks awfully suspicious.
This is the best I can do. It's not easy to find small listening devices when Radio Shack is closed.
Oh, I understand Gideon is nervous about attacking the Midianites.
You'd be nervous too if you only had 300 men against a giant army.
But all that changed after your little spy mission, right?
Well, between you and me and these kids here, yes it did.
Can you tell us what you learned?
Well, when we snuck into camp, we overheard a few soldiers talking, and they said they were terrified of us.
No kidding.
Even though they have this giant army, they seem to think that Gideon can lead us to victory.
And what did Gideon think of that?
Well, that was all the encouragement Gideon needed. Gideon had no doubts that God would lead us to victory. And he raced back to camp to make those final preparations for our attack, which should be coming any minute. Oh, that reminds me. Wet blanket. This is dry blanket. Ignore the previous message. You are go for lunch. Over.
I guess God gave Gideon the courage that he needs to do God's will.
Oh, that's God for you. He has a way of giving us strength to overcome our doubts.
Yes, he does. Enjoy your victory tonight, and don't forget to give God the glory.
Oh, absolutely.
That's all for this week's show. I'm Jimmy Bond, and I'm going back and recover.
Okay, that was great. Jimmy Bond.
Jimmy Bond?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to start with our memory verse. We've been working on our memory verse for 3 weeks for this series we're on now. Let me see if I can find the button. And this is our memory verse. Now, we have been talking about spies. And I've never been a spy, but one thing I think if you were a spy you would have to do is communicate very quietly, because there's a lot of information going back and forth, and there's a lot of people listening out there. So we're going to try to do that with our memory verse. We're going to start by saying, sorry, is there any kids there here in kindergarten? You got the okay. Yeah, okay. We're going to start saying our memory verse the way you would if you were out in the field and you saw another spy and you had to get some message to him. So very quietly, we're going to whisper our memory verse together. Ready? Place of safety. Everybody together. He gives us strength. He's always there to help us in times of trouble. Psalm 46:9. Now I couldn't hear you, but that's okay because you were whispering. Okay, so now we're going to take it up a notch. We're going to be pretending, we're going to do something called mumbling. Because again, when you're talking, sometimes the whisper is not good enough if there's background noises, so you've got to talk just very softly, but a little softer than a whisper. So let's try to say the memory verse like that. God is a place of safety. He gives us strength. He is always there to help us in times of trouble. Okay, now let's just do it like we're normally talking to each other. Like you would normally do it on a day if I said, let's say the memory verse together. God is our place of safety. He gives us strength. He is always there to help us in times of trouble. Psalm 46:1. I forgot Psalm 46:1 last time. All right, so we'll do it a couple more times. This time, we're going to pretend that, you're in this room, and you want to talk to Mrs. Searchman. She's just outside the room down the hall a bit. So you've got to take it up a notch. Not screaming, but a little louder than just talking, okay? God is our place of safety. He gives us strength. He is always there to help us in times of trouble. Psalm 46:1. Okay, last time. Now let's pretend, you guys all know of course you all know where the river is there. I live down in Corinth, so we got the river right there. Let's pretend you're on one side of the river, and your buddy is in the United States on the other side of the river. And you want to get this message to him. Alright, so you got to give it everything you got this time, okay? Ready? God is our place of safety! He gives us strength! He is always there to help us in times of trouble! Psalm 46:1. Very good. Okay. Before I start the lesson, I want to kind of just go back just a little bit before the lesson starts to show you something that's really important. Jimmy Bond and the two spies, they talked about it a little bit during the skip. Today we're talking about a man named Gideon. And Gideon was a pretty special guy, and we're going to learn a little bit more about him. But Gideon led the army of Israel. And the army of Israel was doing a great job because obviously God was with them. And they were really, getting a lot of victories. But then they came to this place called Midian. People who lived there are called Midianites. And the Midianites, this little scale, I'll explain it to you. Here's Gideon's army. Gideon had 32,000 men. I mean, that's a lot. That's not as many people as live in Sarnia. I mean, that's about half the people maybe that live in Sarnia. That's a lot of people in Gideon's army. But the Midianites, they had 135,000 men. I don't know if anybody here has ever been to the Scotiabank Centre in Toronto, formerly the Air Canada Centre, but that's probably the people that would have to fill that up about 6 or 7 times to get 135,000. So that's a lot of people. So right at the very beginning, for every 4 men that these guys had, Gideon only had 1 man. But that's okay because he knew God was with him. But God said, you know what? If Gideon goes in there with 32,000 men and defeats them, they're going to say, oh, we did it with the Israelites. And that's not what this is all about. This is to show them that God is with them. So he said to Gideon, you ask any of your men if they're afraid. And anybody who says they're afraid, tell them they don't have to fight. So he did that, and Gideon was very shocked because he thought he had 32 men who were fearless. 22,000 hands, which mine would have been one of them, went up like this. So Gideon said, okay, you guys don't have to fight anymore. So now they were down to just 10,000. That means roughly 13 Midianite soldiers for every 1 Israelite soldier. You like your chances? You have you, and then there's 13 people? So God says, I'm not done yet, Gideon. He says, I want you to take your 10,000 soldiers down to the river for a drink. And one of 2 things are going to happen. Some of the soldiers are going to get down on their knees and just kind of, suck up the water or lap it up like a dog would. And some of them are going to kneel down, pick it up in their hands, and drink it that way. The ones who pick it up and drink with their hands are your soldiers. The other guys I want you to send home. So Gideon thought, oh man, I hope a lot of people do this. Well, 9,700 people out of 10,000 all got down on their knees and lapped up like a dog. So that left Gideon with a whopping 300 soldiers to fight this fight. That meant 1 Israelite soldier for every 450 Midianites. So that's kind of where we start our story today, okay? So the Lord said to Gideon, who had 300 men left that drank from their hands, I will save you, and I will give the Midianites into your hands. Let the other ones go home. So as we said, Gideon did that. I'm going to have to hold this up a little bit, guys. Gideon was in charge of the soldiers, and they were assigned a very important job. And Gideon, I think, was probably beginning to wonder, what have I got myself into now? I know God is powerful, but 300 men, come on. And Gideon was a great leader, but even great leaders had sometimes when they think that, hey, I don't like my chances, I don't think what I have here is good enough. So Gideon was kind of pondering on that, and the Lord said to him that night, Gideon, get up, go down against the camp, because I'm going to give it into your hands. Like, Gideon, I got this. But Gideon, I think, was kind of afraid, and the Lord, I think, picked that up. And God is so kind, because, you know, he could have just said, Gideon, those are your orders, go. But he said, if you're afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah. And listen to what they are saying. Afterwards, when you go down there, Gideon, you're going to get encouraged, and then you're going to come back and attack the camp. So Gideon and his soldiers did just that. Or Gideon and Purah, rather, did just that. They snuck down. And they were the spies in our story today. They kind of got as close as they could without being caught. And Gideon, they were just arriving as one of the Midianites men was telling a friend, I had a dream. A round loaf of barley came down, tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. So basically, this big loaf of bread came out of the sky and rolled right into our camp. It's not that frightening, but, you know, I wasn't there. So, his friend said, don't you understand? This can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon the Israelites. This means that God has given the whole camp over to the Israelites. Or God has given the battle over to the Israelites. So when Gideon heard that, he was so encouraged. He was pumped up and ready to go. And he came back and he got things all set up. Gideon knew what he was. God knew what he was doing when he sent Gideon down to spy in the camp, and he came back a changed man. He designed a specific battle plan. He said, you know, as soon as he came back, he was full of confidence. First thing he did was he designed a specific plan. He divided the people into 3 different groups of 100. And then listen, Gideon became a leader. I think what God did helped him become a leader. Because look, in the next verse, 3 different times he said he leads. He says, watch me. That's 1, he told them. Follow my lead. That's twice. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. So Gideon was now leading. And then he said, when I and all who are with me, we will blow our trumpets. Then from all around the camp, blow yours and shout for the Lord and for Gideon. So the battle carried on, and the plans unfolded pretty much as God God said it would, as Gideon knew it would. The 3 companies blew the trumpets and smashed their jars and grabbed their torches in their left hand, and holding their right hand the trumpets they were going to blow. A sword, and they all shouted, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. And while they were doing this, I guess with the crashing of the pots and all the lights and the blowing of horns, this probably made this little army of 300 sound like a lot bigger army. And plus they were in different groups coming from different sides. And the Midianites, a lot of them just took off. They headed for the hills. They ran as fast as they could to get out of there. So they were all crying, and you know, I guess like that one guy, they knew that Gideon had God on his side. And then something really interesting happened. There were some guys who didn't run. I guess they didn't hear the pots, or they couldn't get out. So the Lord made it so all of the people that were left, all the soldiers that were left inside Midian, all turned on each other. So, you know, rather than Gideon's people having to go in and start fighting, these guys kind of did it for them. And because of that, as God had promised, they won the war. Now, I'm going to leave this picture on just because I can see a little bit better with it. Gideon, you know, the most important thing about this story, guys, there's a lot of important things, but it really impresses me. And this is, I think, why I like Gideon so much. Gideon was not afraid to admit that he had some real concerns about the battle. And he was not afraid to say that to God, or to go down to the camp when God said go if you have concerns. You know, it would have been really easy to go, no, God is with me, I got to act tough and macho, and I will stay here and I will lead my men. But he went, and he kind of got rewarded for that because he got to hear firsthand. And God reassured him and gave him a great victory. And I think sometimes for us, we say, well, if I don't show any fear, well then, people might say, or God might say, have you guys got no faith? What's wrong with you? Come on. But, God knows us better than that. And God knows that sometimes we are going to be afraid. And when we're afraid, think about that memory verse we just said. I'm just going to go back to it real quick here. If I can find it right there. Yeah. Do it. Oh. Oh, no. You know what? I won't. There it is. Okay. God is our place of safety. He gives us strength. He is always there to help us in times of trouble. In Gideon's time of trouble was that he was afraid. And God was certainly there to help him. So, I'm going to take this back down here now. And I know you guys got to go back to school tomorrow after spring break. And, so I thought I would do you a personal favor and help you get your brains thinking a little bit about school. You don't have to thank me. And so we're going to have a little pop quiz. Just check the time real quick here. Okay, yeah, we're going to have a little pop quiz. It'll just take a couple minutes. Now, I really appreciate it when people put up their hand to answer questions. I really do. When you're up here and the people do that, that's great. And I want you to do it on this pop quiz only, I'm going to say, because I kind of like to spread it out. There's about 5 questions, and I want only one answer from each person. So if you answer a question, thank you, but then I'm going to be looking for some other people, just to kind of spread it around. So these are easy, they're true or false questions. So, question 1. Gideon had a much larger army than the Midianites. True or false? Yes.
False.
Let's check it out, see if you're right. Yes, that is false. As we remember, Gideon's army was smaller to start off with, and it kept getting smaller. Okay, God told Gideon specifically not to spy on the Midianites. True or false? Micah?
False.
Yes, he told him the exact opposite thing. Okay, you guys you're on a roll. Gideon heard the Midianites saying that they were afraid of him. Yeah. Sorry? You say true or false?
True.
That's true. Let's see, we haven't had a true one yet. Yes, that is true. Great. 2 more. Gideon did not have the courage to go through with the battle. True or false?
True.
Okay, Gideon did not have courage to go through with the battle. In other words, he was too afraid and he didn't go through with the battle.
So, did God give him courage?
Yes, so he did go through with the battle. So it's true, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it is. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I'm just going to be wrong. No. No, you're right. I'm so sorry, yeah. Yeah, those double negatives get you every time. Yeah, he did have the courage to go through with the battle. I'm sorry about that. Okay, last question. God can give us courage when we, like Gideon, are filled with doubt. Go ahead and answer that. Okay, back.
True.
True? Well, we're both due for a true, and yes, that is true. Okay. Great, guys. Thanks. That's about all I got for you today. I just wanted to share that story of Gideon with you because, like I say, there are a lot of great people in the Bible, and maybe there's people who wouldn't have had any problems, but Gideon did, and I can really identify that myself. Because sometimes there's things where I go, I don't think I can do this, even though I know God is with me. So, we're going to go to large groups, or small groups rather, and when we do, there's going to be a sheet your teachers are going to give you. Since this is the last week with this memory verse, we're giving it to you on a piece of paper to take home. And on the front of that paper, there's a picture of our little spy that we've been watching now. I don't think that's Mr. Searsma, because Mr. Searsma, I think, is much taller than that spy. But we've had Mr. Searsma as our Jimmy Bond, and that's Jimmy Bond. There's a picture on there. If you have time and it's okay with the teachers, you can color that, but take that memory verse home. You can even highlight the memory verse in the marker if you want, whatever is going to help you learn. So, Mrs. Searsma?